How do you fix 404 not found errors that exist on your website? Well, when you get right down to it, there's 4 methods that you can use to fix a 404 not found error on your website. We're going to talk about those 4 methods, why you would use one of those methods in this video today. The first method that you can use to fix a 404 error is you can redirect that 404 error somewhere else. And what you're doing here is you're saying, okay, people are attempting to access this 404 page. They're trying to access this old URL, this broken URL on my website. Instead of letting people access that old URL, I'm going to redirect people over to a working page on my website. And by redirecting people over to a working page on your website, you're preventing people from even being able to see that error page. They aren't going to encounter that error page anymore. And this works for both humans and robots. Let's go through an example here. Let's say on Elementive's website that we have a not found error page at elementive.com/about-us. When people try to go to about-us, they get a 404 not found error message. We don't want people to see that if they're trying to access an about-us URL on our website. So to correct this, we can implement a redirect. There's a few different ways that you can implement a redirect. One method that you can use to implement a redirect is you can add a redirect to an htaccess file. An htaccess file is a control file that lives in your website's root directory, and you put in various text statements to that htaccess file that describe different behaviors that your server should follow. In this case, the behavior would be redirecting people who attempt to access one URL and sending them over to a different URL. Let's go through this redirect statement. So there's different parts to this redirect statement. The first part says redirect 301. And that redirect 301 is a statement that says, okay, we're adding a redirect to our htaccess file, and that redirect is going to return a 301 response status code. That 301 response status code simply indicates that this redirect is permanent and not temporary. Next, we have about-us. This is the error URL that we're trying to redirect from. And then we have the URL that we're redirecting to. In this case, Elementive's working about page, about-Elementive. If you don't have access to your htaccess file, or if you do have access but you don't know how to edit that htaccess file, that's okay. You can implement redirects in other ways. Let's say that you're using WordPress. You can install various plugins. In this case, we're going to look at an example of redirection in WordPress that will allow you to add in redirects right through WordPress without having to look at any code at all. On here, you can put in the source URL as the error URL, for example, about-us. And then in the target URL, you can put in the URL that you want to redirect to. This should be a working page on your website. In this case, that's about-Elementive. Also on here, you can make sure that it returns a 301 moved permanently HTTP code. Now, one big thing to note when you're adding in a redirect is you only want to redirect to a relevant page. In this example I was just talking through, we went from about-us to about-Elementive. Clearly, if people are attempting to access about-us and they're arriving on that not found error page, well, we can be pretty certain that they were looking for information about Elementive. So redirecting from about-us to about-Elementive seems like it would be in line with people's expectations. Where you want to be careful is if you're redirecting to somewhere that's not quite as relevant. Let's say you removed an old product from your website. You wouldn't necessarily want to redirect over to a generic category page because that might not be as relevant for people. They were expecting to find that product, and now you're taking them over to a category page that lists other things. That could just be weird and not a good user experience. And related to that, the other thing that you want to keep in mind when you're adding in redirects is that the home page is rarely a relevant page to redirect to. And that's because the home page is so very generic that it's not going to really speak to anything that people really wanted on a specific page that was an error. Let's go back to that old product that you've removed from your website. Let's say you've taken that product down. Well, if you just redirect people who were trying to reach that old product over to your homepage, the homepage is serving a very different intention. It's serving a very different purpose than that product page did, right? People were coming to your website. They wanted to find information about that product, and now you're redirecting them over to the homepage, so they're looking at homepage information which doesn't really speak to what they were wanting to find. The second method that you can use to fix 404 not found errors is you can correct source links or correct the broken links that are leading to 404 errors. On Elementive's website, let's say, for example, that we have a broken link leading to a 404 on our homepage. We have this link to our team, and that our team link is going to a 404 error page. We can go in and we can correct that particular link to go to a working page on our website. And you can fix any broken links that are within your control. You can go to any link on your website, you can update it to go to a working page instead. You can also control a lot of links on local profiles or social profiles that you've set up. However, not all broken links are going to be within your control, right? There are external links pointing to your website. There are links in emails that you can't update after the email has been sent. There are links that people have bookmarked or added to their favorites. So if the broken link isn't under your control, you will not be able to correct it. Now you might be wondering, why do I need to implement a redirect if I've already fixed all of those broken links on my website? I've corrected all those broken links. Why do I need to then add in a redirect? Well, you need to remember that correcting broken links only fixes one source for reaching an error. People might be finding those errors in other ways. Sure, they might have found that broken link on your website, but that broken link might now be indexed in Google search results. That broken link might be something that got shared on a social network. That broken link might be something that people bookmarked, whatever it is, right? People now have other means of accessing that 404 error. And if people have other means of accessing that 404 error, well, correcting one broken link on your website isn't going to fix that. Implementing the redirect will. So you want to implement both the redirect and correct any source links to your website to fully fix the 404 error. The third method that we can use to fix 404 errors is we can restore deleted pages. And this is obviously only applicable if the 404 errors are happening because you recently removed a whole bunch of pages from your website. In this case, let's say that you did remove a whole bunch of pages from your website, maybe as old products, maybe it's old blog posts, old articles, old PDF files, whatever it is. And then you notice in your log files or in your analytics that a lot of people are still coming to your website. They're still wanting to find those pages that you deleted. Maybe you're even getting complaints from customers who are calling you asking you, where did these pages go? We wanted to see these pages. Why did you take them down? Well, in this situation, you should consider if you should restore and if you can restore those removed pages. Sometimes you aren't going to be able to restore those removed pages, and that's a separate issue. But if you can restore those pages, you can put those pages back up on your website, that way people can find them again, and that will fix the 404 error. Now, if you cannot restore that page, the question to ask is if you can create a new version of that removed page. Maybe you did have to take down a whole bunch of old product pages. That's fine, but do you have a new version of those products? If so, maybe you can put those up, and then you can either redirect that deleted page over to that new version of the page, or maybe the new version of the page just exists at that same old URL. Now, the fourth and final method that we can use to fix 404 errors is we can ignore the error. This one might seem weird, might seem counterintuitive, but hear me out. It's okay to leave an error because an error message communicates an important thing to users and to robots who are coming to your website. An error message communicates that this page no longer exists, that this page has been removed. So errors are valid signals that are appropriate signals to send in many cases when you've deliberately removed pages from your website and you have chosen not to replace those pages. It's also especially important and appropriate to leave that 404 error in place when you're removing low-quality, thin content pages from your website. This is especially true for SEO, right? Those thin content, low-quality pages can really hurt your SEO performance. By removing those pages, you're trying to improve your SEO performance, but the way in which you communicate to Google that you're removing those thin content, low-quality pages from your website is with a 404 error. And by leaving that 404 error in place, that broken page will eventually fall out of the search index. It will stop getting traffic. People will stop coming back to it. So if you've deliberately removed a page from your website, you've deliberately said, yeah, we don't want these pages to be associated with our domain, well, then a 404 error is the appropriate signal to leave in place. That said, if a lot of people are reaching the 404 and you are making a choice to leave the 404 error in place, you may want to consider a custom 404 error message to explain why this page was removed. For example, let's say you've removed a whole product line from your website and you know that it's a product line that a lot of people are going to come back to. They're going to look for those pages on your website. Maybe a custom 404 error message here makes sense. And on that custom 404 error page, you can really explicitly call out that product line, why you've removed it, maybe offer some alternative solutions for people. So you're still communicating that this page cannot be found, but you're also offering a more helpful message to the people who are attempting to access that page. If you have any questions about 404 errors or need help with something on your website, please let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more videos from Elementive. Thank you so much for watching.